Welcome to the Charlie's Cavalry Coaches Show. I'm your host, John Moses. Later in today's show, we'll honor our Student Athlete of the Week and talk women's lacrosse with head coach Jen Fallon. But for now, we'll catch up on the baseball team with head coach Chris CELANO. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, John.
Also, Coach, 3 wins out of 4 over the weekend against St. Anselm and St. Michael's. What were some of your takeaways from that weekend?
As we've been doing, I thought we pitched very well, which obviously kept us in all the games. We got a couple timely hits when we needed to. Our defense was actually very good throughout, minus 1 game, 2 innings actually. But when your starting pitching can give you 7, 8 innings each time out, you're probably going to be in every game, and I think that was the tale of the weekend.
Well, it certainly was. I mean, since you've come north, you've had your starter get into the 7th inning of every game except for Wednesday against Pace. I mean, great starting pitching is really the option for you. Yeah,
I think that's going to be the strength of our team, especially after these first sample of 16 games or so. I kind of see us shaping up as a team that will give us a chance to win every game through our starters. And I also think our bullpen has a chance to be very good as well. So if we can play defense behind them and scratch out enough hits to put runs on the board, I think we're in the mix for sure.
Hey, you talked about that defense a little bit. Your defense took a pretty big hit over the weekend, losing Jack Heary to an injury. Now talk a little bit about Jack's injury and if you expect to see him again this year.
On Sunday, he had squared around to bunt, and the ball actually came up off the bat, hit him in the eye. And after all the tests and seeing a couple of different doctors, it seems like he has a tear in his cornea, which will probably sideline him for the rest of the season. There may be something that he does come back at the end of the year, but we're probably moving ahead without having him. I think that left field spot now probably becomes an opportunity for a couple different guys to crack the lineup and somebody to step up and take advantage of it.
Well, it's all about opportunity. Who do you think is going to really fill in for you in left field?
I think we have a couple of good options. I think Dave Workus can move right back out there because he's been playing there.
Sure.
I also think Krista Morris, who was in the lineup yesterday, could obviously figure in. Kyle Petarudo and Jordan Kershaw as well. So we do have some options. It just depends how it comes out in the wash when everybody decides who's going to take it.
Yeah, when you're thinking about your left field position, are you trying to value your offense more or defense more? Because Jack really gave you some great defense out there.
I'm very defensive-minded in general. So I think our better defensive option will probably get the nod. However, we do need someone that's going to be able to put together good at-bats too. So the combination of both would be ideal, but in the end, I think defensively is where we're going to go.
Well, Wednesday against Pace, Mike Aquilino seemed to be battling himself all day, and then he had the 1 bad inning where he gave up the 4 runs. What did Ack really struggle with?
I think his command, kind of got away from him. I think going to pitching behind consistently is not a recipe for success for anybody. And he's been very good, obviously up until that point, staying ahead of guys and as by his numbers, as you can tell, not giving up runs. And having 1 bad inning, that inning alone, the issue was 3 walks, sandwiched 2 hits in there, and falling behind consistently, and there's 4 runs.
And even one of those hits was tough. I mean, a guy just put the bat head on it. It took a right turn almost right by first base. It would have taken an unbelievable play by Corey Carr to make that, but completely different inning if Corey's able to get that ball.
Yeah, that actually would probably lead to, in my estimation, maybe half the runs being scored. We get an out right there. And then obviously their mindset offensively changes too, because you have some outs on the board, and now and from a pitching standpoint, you start to change your attack as well, because you only need 1 more out to get out of the inning.
Well, you got into some tough situations on the offensive end against Pace, particularly in that first inning. And bases loaded, nobody out, and you didn't get anything out of it. And I really saw Tamburino, his confidence just went from here to here as soon as that inning completed. Talk about the struggles you had on offense against Pace.
Well, quite frankly, we didn't put the ball in play. I think we struck out way too much. I think we struck out looking, way too many times. And that first inning right there, I don't think he gets through the first inning if we put some runs on the board right there. Anytime you can force another team to go to the bullpen in the first inning is a good thing. And we just didn't get that done. I think, to his credit, after that first inning, he locked in, and then 7 innings later, he's still on the mound with a 4-1 lead. And things could have been very, very different if we put the ball in play there and come away with 2 or 3. I think the game changes completely.
Yeah, and Tamburino's a guy that you're a little bit familiar with. You recruited him a little bit when you were at Dowling College. But when he pulled out that curveball during Buckley's at bat in the first inning, I thought that was really the difference maker. Really tight curveball, and it really threw you guys off.
Yeah, and if you notice, he saved it for, in what my opinion was, just the right counts, especially when he was ahead. I thought he located it well, and we just didn't have an answer for it.
Well, Joe Romanelli actually had a very nice day defensively against Pace, throwing out 3 base runners, kept the ball in front a couple of times. Talk a little about Joe and what he's shown early in the season.
I think Joe hadn't had much opportunity before this year, but from what I saw of him in the fall, I think our staff also agreed that he would be a very good catcher for us. And so far, I was excited about him defensively, and what he's given us offensively has been unbelievable as well. So I think we're getting what we should get out of him. I think he is a good player, and I think he's now with the opportunity and kind of really buying into what we want to do. He's taking advantage.
Are you surprised at all by the defense you've seen from him?
No, not after getting to know him after the first month of the fall and watching him play. I thought he had the tools. I just thought, mix that with some opportunity and some coaching, he'd be a good catcher.
Well, Frank Valacha has really given you a nice push out of the bullpen, a clean inning against St. Anselm in Game 1, and then 2 2/3 to bridge the gap on Wednesday. And talk a little about his role in the bullpen and where you might see him figuring out going forward.
He has been nothing but great. Like you said, every time he's been out, he even actually made a start for us in Florida and threw 5 good innings. I see him figuring into big spots, whether it's out of the pen, potentially moving into the rotation, being the closer. He's kind of interchangeable. He's got the stuff to do all 3. And if he keeps going on this path, he's just going to keep figuring into big spots either way.
We've talked a little bit about Brendan O'Reilly on this show, but it seems like since we've come north, he struggled to find his rhythm on the offensive end. Do you see that as just a difference in pitching, or is there something different in his approach at the plate?
I don't know that it's a difference in pitching. I feel like he's, as a freshman, just the grind of the college season can kind of wear on you mentally. And I don't think it's anything physical, as it is with a lot of our guys. I think it's mental. And as a high school player, you're used to playing roughly, 25 games, and then you have playoffs. We're 17 games in, and we're not even halfway done. So I think that's going to be his challenge moving forward, and I think he just needs to get back to his approach a little bit better.
That's sort of an interesting thought here. I mean, you've played 40% of your season, and for a lot of these high school guys on their body clock, they're almost done. It's 80, 90% at this point. Going forward, do you think you're going to have to, maybe sit down your freshmen for a couple of days just to give them a mental break at the plate?
I think that for them, it may be, we think about it more so. But to be honest with you, for all 28 guys, I think certain guys, whether they're freshmen, seniors, or in between, you do sometimes need that blow. I do think we're deep enough to do it. But again, I mean, it's our job as a staff as well to make sure everybody's mentally sharp every day.
Well, Stephen Cloud really broke out against Pace. 3 walks, 2 hits, big day for him. I mean, even though his season-long numbers don't really show it, he's really giving you great at-bats in the early season. Yeah,
I think, you could throw the stats away for him. Yesterday was a perfect example. He's doing everything we're asking him to do as a leadoff hitter. He had, a little rough stretch for a good 2 weeks, but he's really rebounded the past week especially, getting back to what I think is his strength, and that's just, having good at-bats, making the pitcher work, hitting the ball to left field, and he's been, he's doing everything we're asking him to do.
Well, yeah, now that you're 17 games into the season, are you starting to look more and more at the season statistics and how you guys have done so far?
Yeah, I'm not really big in general on looking at our statistics other than to see any patterns, in terms of our strikeout to walk ratio offensively, or how many guys were walking on the mound, things like that. Things like the batting average, the ERA, I have really no use for in terms of how it's going to help us win. But there are certain statistics that I will look at, and you like to take big samples, 15 games, so we're right around that point.
Yeah, I mean, when you're filling out your lineup, how much of that statistic stuff are you really looking into, or are you just more going with your gut?
My feel is, we usually go by feel, in terms of, if Stephen Cloud had, 4 bad games in a row, but we know he's doing his work in between, and he's at practice, he seems like he's locked in, that's just an example. I don't think he's coming out of the lineup.
Well, AIC coming up this weekend, 3 big divisional games. As you know, the divisional games are the ones that count. How do you feel like you match up with the Yellow Jackets?
We got to see them in Florida, play them when we were down there. I think they're good. I think they can score some runs. I think we'll have the edge on the mound. So if we continue to pitch well and play defense, I see us being in every game for sure.
Well, Coach, thanks so much for your time. Good luck this weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, John.
On the other side of this break, we'll honor our Student Athlete of the Week. This is the Charlie's Cavalry Coaches Show. Welcome back to the Charlie's Cavalry Coaches Show. I'm your host, John Moses. We'll now honor our Student Athlete of the Week, women's lacrosse player Ashley FERRANDIZ. And Ashley actually joins us in studio. Ash, thanks for joining us.
No problem.
Well, so Ashley, you're back for your 5th season, actually. You had a medical redshirt because you had a pretty serious knee injury. Talk a little about your rehab process and how your knee feels today.
I think that going in, I was a little intimidated, but knowing that I had the support around me from my friends and family and my older sister and my coaches, I made it through my rehab successfully. It's hard, I'm not going to lie. It's hard for anybody that's really going through it. But now my knee feels fine. You know, you get tweaks here and there, but that's anything with any serious injury like that. But it's not too bad. I mean, it's just another thing that you deal with.
Well, a 7-0 start to the season here, wins over Merrimack and CW Post, 2 teams you've traditionally struggled with. What is different about this team in comparison to the other teams you've played for here?
I think that this team has a senior class that is really willing to give whatever it takes to win because they realize it's their last season and they want to give it all. And our underclassmen just buy into what our coaches put out and what the seniors put out, and we're all on just the same page, and the chemistry is really, really strong. And it's hard to get a team like that where everyone gets along and everyone is as close as anybody else. So I think that has a lot to do with it.
Well, I think you're in the discussion for the most valuable player for Wednesday's win over CW Post. You had 4 goals and 5 assists in the game. Let's talk a little bit about that game. Did it play out like you expected to?
I think that prior to the game, I went in with the mentality that this was the year, this was it. It's my last chance, really, to possibly even beat CW Post. And I think that a lot of people on the team were thinking that. And with our team, we have the mentality of every game matters just as much as the last. So we all went in knowing that we had what it was going to take to win. Because after last season and our loss with 1 second left on the clock, we were all itching to get back onto the field and play a good team like CW Post.
Well, overtime begins with 2 goals for CW Post. What are you thinking at that point?
I think it's really easy for people to put their heads down and think that it's over. But when you have the support system that our team has and we look around and we're inspired, we know that there's plenty of time left. There's still plenty of time for us to get those goals back. We know in lacrosse goals are scored quickly, and we can make it happen. Our offensive line can make that happen. Well,
you really had a big hand in it, scoring a goal and then assisting on the last 2, the tying and game-winning goals. I mean, talk a little about your matchup in that game and how you think it played out.
I think that defensively, CW Post is a very strong team, and at the beginning of the game, we went in with a mentality and we were surprised with what we were getting. We were getting one-on-ones and we were getting those goals, and then I stepped in behind the crease, behind the goal, and I was like, all right, like it's time to get some feeds. And the cutters were getting open, I was getting them the ball, and they were finishing their shots.
Well, that win over CW Post was a great win for the program. Where do you think it ranks all-time in terms of all-time wins in your career?
I mean, I've played a lot of games, and we've had like a lot of surprising wins, but I think that ranks up there, close to #1. I don't think it's quite #1, only because in the 2019 we got to go to NE10s and host it and all of that. So it's up there though, but I think that it's gonna, if we don't back it up through the rest of the season, that it's gonna lose value. As of right now, it's up there, but we have to put out for the rest of the season to make sure it's worth something.
Well, every year there seems to be a player that rises above the expectations put out for them. Who's one player that surprised you in the early season with their play?
Sarah Magnon has definitely stepped up her game in the past year, and this year she's really transitioned into this player that is willing to do what it takes to get the ball in the back of the net and to get open and get the feeds and score the goals that we need. And she, in the past, has been there, but she's really stepped into her role and understood that she's the best cutter on the team and she's going to get the ball, and she's a great finisher. So.
Well, 30 goals through 7 games for Sarah, and you've now watched her for 4 years. Where's the biggest improvement you see from her?
I think the biggest improvement is her confidence. I think she's just got a different confidence about her right now. She used to be a very timid player. She used to cut and get open, but she didn't get the ball. She might hesitate to cut sometimes, but I think now she just is very confident in her cuts. She cuts at the right time, and when she gets the ball, she goes hard and goes to goal and shoots to finish and shoots to score.
Well, Ashley, thanks so much for your time. Good luck in the upcoming season. Hopefully we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you.
On the other side of this break, we'll talk to head women's lacrosse coach Jen Fallon. This is the Charlie's Cavalry Coaches Show.